Come and see, friends. We will be entering back into the Holy Zohar again regarding the secret of the Passover lamb. I am perplexed at the ignorance of our generation regarding the matter of the Passover lamb. The Passover lamb has always been the idolatry of the exile. The Passover lamb has never represented the Mashiach. The Passover lamb has never represented the God of Israel. Passover lamb has never represented the Redeemer of Israel. These are all dust that Edom has tried to bury Jesus under. They've tried to bury the fact that he is the Passover lamb in the secret of the Torah. The Torah says to sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians. What does this mean? Does it mean that the Egyptians thought that the Passover lamb was an abomination to them? No, it means that the abomination of the Egyptians is their very God. Okay? And so, as we spoke about last time, Yosef Assadik told his brothers, he says, tell Pharaoh that you are shepherds, for shepherds are an abomination to the Egyptians. Many of the ignorant see this and they think that Joseph was telling his brothers to say that they were shepherds in order for the Egyptians to despise them. But yet they inherited the choicest land of Ramses. How, if the shepherds were despised, would they inherit the choicest land? And the Pashada doesn't make any sense. And most fail to probe this. For in truth, when it says to say that you are shepherds, for they are an abomination to the Egyptians, this means that the shepherds are like divine gods to the Egyptians. And that's why they inherited the choicest land of Ramses. Why? Because Joseph set his brothers up as the heads of the idolatry of Egypt in order to subdue it, as one would subdue their evil inclination to the service of Kuchebrihu. And so later on in the exile of Egypt, we are actually commanded to sacrifice the very God whom we were shepherding. That's why it says we will sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians, meaning the Passover lamb. There's no disassociating Jesus from the Passover lamb, which means there's no disassociating Jesus with the God of the exile, the idolatry of the exile. And your interpretation of him matters greatly. And if you interpret him uncircumcised, meaning you have a lower interpretation of Jesus, then the dogs will break the bones and your circumcision is not as it should be. But if your interpretation of Jesus is very high, then even Jesus will come to defend that interpretation, because he is in the secret of the Samech Mem, which we were going to read a parable later regarding how even the evil inclination will be subdued to the service of Kuchabrichu, and everything that Hashem created above and below all works for his glory. And the secret of the faith is given to the souls of Israel. So with that, I want to read this first passage from the Holy Zohar. This is in Perashat Bo, Daf 41b. And Reb Shimon Bar Yochai brings down for us, he says, what is written? He said, what does it mean? What is it written? And you shall not break a bone of it. Exodus 12:46. Meaning, what does it mean that you shall not break a bone of it? Because in the Torah it tells us don't break a bone of the Passover lamb. What does this mean? You know, does this table matters? Or is Hashem telling us to, not break a bone of the lamb in order to show, proper etiquette? No. Zohar tells us that it is to show disgrace upon this Passover lamb and upon all the sins of the Egyptians, meaning all the idolatry of the Egyptians. For the bones were cast into the marketplace, meaning the marketplace of ideas, and the dogs, meaning the Erev Rav, came and were dragging them from place to place. And this was more grievous to them than anything, For the bones were the rectification of the body. Bones are in the secret of Chokhmah, okay? And inside of the secret of the Passover lamb, there's much Chokhmah, there's much wisdom. And whenever these dogs get a hold of the wisdom of Jesus and the secret of the bones, they start to break them and drag them from place to place if you give them an incorrect interpretation of Jesus. And when Asav, when the exile, when the Goyim see this, it's more grievous to them than anything else. And all they want to do is take the wisdom of the bones of Jesus from the dogs. They want to take it away from them. And what do? They bury it in their philosophy, and it resembles a different aspect. And Israel cast them into the marketplace as a manner of disgrace. Meaning, I'm telling you right now, Jesus is the secret of the Samech Mem, the mom's, okay? That's a matter of disgrace, okay? And once you understand the Exodus from Egypt, there's no getting around from that. And for this it is written, and the bone of it you shall not break. You shall not break it. Meaning, you're supposed to interpretate this, this Jesus correctly. But the dogs come afterwards and are breaking it. Meaning, if you don't have a correct interpretation of the Passover lamb, then the dogs will come afterwards and start breaking it. Okay. Furthermore, the Egyptians came afterwards and they saw those very bones that had been dragged by the dogs from place to place. Okay. They the Romans come and they see the interpretation of Jesus by the rabbis, by the Arab rabbis, and they start to gather the wisdom of Jesus and they gather it together, and the Egyptians buried them in the dust, meaning in their philosophy. They buried it in their own doctrines they came up with, so that the dogs would not remember them, so that nobody, when they're discoursing, none of the Erev Rav, when they're discoursing with the Christians, ever bring up the secret of the Passover lamb. They don't remember anything about the Passover lamb. They don't remember that the Passover lamb was the god of the Egyptians. They don't remember that Joseph, this is the same secret of, there was a new king in Egypt who did not remember Joseph. He did not remember the secret of the idolatry that Joseph had placed his brothers in charge of in order to subdue Egypt from the inside, just as Rome was subdued from the inside. And so therefore he says over here, and the Egyptians buried them within the dust so that the dogs would not remember them. And this is the nullification of idol worship, even more so, for it was from their own side. Meaning that we have now turned, in the secret of a man who eats his own flesh, we have now turned them against themselves by burying their idols from their own side. And it's not a Jewish military, it's not a Jewish army that's going and force converting these people. No, through them seeing those bones being broken by the dogs, then they try to gather them up and they bury them so that the dogs can't remember them. Nobody knows anything about Jesus today. Nobody remembers anything about Jesus. Nobody remembers the Passover lamb. Everybody thinks the Passover lamb is the God of Israel. That's ridiculous. The Passover lamb has never been the Messiah of Israel, never been the God of Israel. Matter of fact, it's been the direct opposite. Since the days of Moshe Rabbeinu, for then they were subdued even more so when they were nullified and found no support from their own side. And for this reason, Israel does not nullify them. Meaning, I'm not going to forget about the secret of Jesus. I'm not going to nullify it. Okay. I have the secret of Jesus. And I'm going to cast my interpretation to the marketplace of ideas. And this is the secret of you shall not break a bone of it. Don't break a bone of the wisdom of Jesus. And in doing so, they will try to bury this. And you'll see this very soon, friends, that the people who see my interpretations, Esau and Rome, they're going to try and bury it. So that way the Erev Rav and everybody that died, they can't remember anything. And this is what's happened, but it's not going to happen anymore. And so many people are, they're perplexed with this. How can this idolatry, just like the Zohar brought down for us, how can this avodah zarah, you know, be used for anything good, right? And so here's the secret, friends. The Zohar brings down for us in Parashat Truma, Daf 163a. And this is in the secret of the parable of the harlot. Okay? And If you are wise and you have a holy soul, you're gonna be able to see right through this, and you're gonna see exactly what Kuchabrihu is trying to reveal to us. So let's read it. And he says, "And what is said with all your heart?" That means with both your hearts. So in the Torah, it says you shall love Hashem with all your heart with two bets. And these two bets, levavacha, is the secret of the two inclinations, the good inclination and the evil inclination. And he says, and each of these is called a heart. This one is a good heart, and this one's a bad heart. Therefore, it says levavacha, with two bets, with all your heart, which means both of your inclinations, the good and evil inclinations, and with all your soul. It should have said with your soul. What does it mean with all your soul? It means this with all. Why? Rather to include nefesh, ruach, neshama. Okay, all your soul, meaning the different layers of your soul. Okay, this is what with all your soul means. With everything that this soul holds, and with all your might, so too, how many kinds of money are there? All different from one another. And concerning this, it is written with all. The love, listen up. The love of Kuchabrihu is to surrender all this to him. Everything, your money, your soul, your finances, your hearts, all of it. Okay? And he says over here, to love him with each and every one, even your evil inclination. You should love Hashem even through the secret of the evil inclination. And he says there, and if you say with the evil inclination, how can a person love him? How can a person love Kuchabrichu with his evil inclination? For the evil inclination is an accuser. He's the secret of the Samech Mem, the angel of death, that prevents man from drawing near to the service to serve Kuchabrichu. This is in the secret of what Rav Vali brought for us down last time, that Yeshu doesn't draw those near to Kuchabrichu. He draws the Erev Rav and those of unholy seed away. Okay, he draws them away. And how could he love him through it? Okay, rather, this is the greater service of Kuchabrichu. When the evil inclination is subdued because of love toward Kuchabrichu. Wow. For when this evil inclination is subdued and that person breaks it, this is the love of Kuchabrichu. Wow. Now, I'm going to, hopefully most of you will understand this, that the two inclinations are in the secret of the two twins of Esau and Jacob, okay? And so in this circumstance, what we're bringing down now is that the evil inclination, the accuser, is in the secret of Jesus right now, okay? And how do we love Hashem even with the secret of the evil inclination, okay? And he says over here, because he draws near the evil inclination to the service of Kuchabrichu. Wow. Wow. Meaning that he uses that Israel has a special relationship with Kuchabrichu, and we are above these Elohim, and then we cause these Elohim of the nations to draw near to the service of Kuchabrichu. And this is the last thousands and thousands of years of rectification of tikkunim that's been happening. Okay? And he says, here is the Raza, here's the secret for masters of judgment. Everything that Kuchabrihu created above and below, all is for the sake of revealing his glory, even the evil inclination, even the Elohim, the God of the exile, and all is for his service. And who has ever seen a servant become the accuser of his master? And in everything his master desires, he becomes the accuser? He says here, the will of Kuchabrihu is not that human beings constantly serve him, meaning the evil inclination, and walk. Excuse me. The will of Kuchabrihu is that humans beings constantly serve him. Okay, and now it says or nashab, meaning b'nei nashab, meaning all human beings. Okay, everyone is supposed to serve Kuchabrihu and walk in the path, walk in the way of truth, to merit for themselves many goods. Since the will of Kuchabrihu is this, meaning to give good to his creation. Kuchabrihu doesn't want us evil for his creation. He wants good for his creation. Okay? And how does the evil servant arise and become the accuser? From within the will of his master. Wow, friends. So how do we have the Satan from within the will of Kuchabrihu? How do we have Samech Mem from within the will of Kuchabrihu? And he says, and lead people to an evil path and push them away from the good path. This is in the secret of Yeshu, the garbage man, okay? And cause them to do the will of their master, and lead people onto the evil path, onto an evil path. Listen, rather surely he is doing the will of his master. Now, here's the parable, friends. Consider this very. So he's saying here that even though the Satan, the evil inclination, draws you away from this, from goodness, right? It draws you into the secret of an evil path, right? He says, surely he is doing the will of his master. And it's like a king who had an only son, and he loved him exceedingly, and charged him in love that he not draw himself near to an evil woman, because whoever draws near to her is not worthy to enter the palace of the king. That son confessed before him to fulfill the will of his father in love. Outside the house of the king was a certain harlot, beautiful in appearance and graceful in form. One day the king said, I wish to test the will of my son toward me. He called the harlot, and he said to her, go and seduce my son to see his will towards me. What did that harlot do? She went after the son of the king. This is the secret of the Samach Mem going after Israel. And he says, and began to embrace him and kiss him, to seduce him with many enticements. If that son is upright and listens to the command of his father, he rebukes her and does not heed her and pushes her away. Hashem he mamish is putting in front of us a form of divinity that we're supposed to reject. Okay, it's a test. We're supposed to reject this form of divinity. Okay, and he says, if that son is upright and listens to the command of his father, he rebukes her and does not heed her and pushes her away. Then his father rejoices in his son and brings him into the innermost chamber of his palace and gives him gifts and treasures and much honor. Who caused all this honor to that son? It was the very harlot. And that harlot, does she have praise in this or not? Does she have any praise for causing the son to enter into the secret of the palace of the king? And he says, surely she has praise from every side. One, for doing the command of the king. She listened to what the king told her. To go and try and seduce Israel. And he says, and one, for causing that son to receive all the goodness and all the love from the king. Meaning, the Satan is on a mission. He was given a mission from Hashem. Okay? And through this, about this it is written, and behold, it was very good. And behold, it was good. This is the angel of life. Very meod, this is the angel of death, which is the Samech Mem. For he is certainly very good for one who obeys the commands of his master. And come and see. If not for the accuser, the righteous would not inherit those supernal treasures that are destined to be inherited in the world to come. Blessed are those who confront this accuser, and blessed are those who do not confront him. Blessed are those who confront him and are delivered from him. For because of him they inherit all those goods and all those delights and all those longings of the world to come, of which it is written, no eye has seen it, O Elohim, you. Blessed are those who never confronted him. Meaning, blessed are those who confronted Jesus and overcame him. Just like Yaakov Avinu confronted the Samech Mem and overcame him. Okay? But also, blessed are those who never had to have any contact with this Russia. Blessed are those who never had to go into Christianity. For because of him, they would have inherited Gehinnom. Meaning there are certain people out there that if they would have entered into the secret of Christianity in Jesus, they wouldn't have been able to sustain. They would have entered in Gehinnom and been cast off from the land of life. For those guilty ones who did not confront him were obedient to him. Wow. And followed after him. And for this the righteous ought to hold him precious. For because of him they inherited all the good things and delights and longings for the world to come. Friends, you must Hear the words of Rab Shimon Bar Yochai right now. He's revealing to us divine mysteries, okay? Divine mysteries about the Samech Mem and Jesus. And if you're able to receive them, blessed are you. And if you're not able to receive them, then may Hashem give you what you desire. Friends, you know that I wear a red talit because this red talit was given me by the Samech Mem. And because of him, I inherit all the treasures and I enter into the palace of the king. Consider this very wisely, friends. Shalom.